you mentioned the Clinton Foundation, and there's so much rich material there for your father to be talking about at that next debate. But I got to bring up the Trump Foundation, because yesterday, New York Attorney General Schneiderman ordered the Trump Foundation to cease funding in the state. What do you make of these allegations from Eric Schneiderman now?
Yeah, well, I know very little about it, to tell you the truth. But what I find ironic is that the Trump Foundation has 0 employees, it has 0 overhead, it has 0 this, it has 0 that. If you look at the Clinton Foundation, right, every single one of their friends has jobs. Every one of their friends' children has jobs. If you look at half of the major networks and news outlets, you know, the people who run these networks, their children work at the Clinton Foundation or did work at the, I mean, the web of twistedness is unbelievable. I mean, it's really, really bad, and the web of corruption is really terrible. And you look at Haiti and where that money was misappropriated. You look at the Clinton Foundation taking $35 million from Saudi Arabia, who's one of the largest abusers of women and minorities in the world, and then 3 days later getting weapons deals from the State Department. I mean, the level of corruption there was unbelievable. And, I mean, the Clinton Foundation was their own piggy bank. It was Bill and Hillary's piggy bank.
That definitely resonates with the American people, but that's not what Eric Schneiderman is looking at, right? So you're facing this uphill battle of fighting against the other side, fighting against the media, who's on Hillary's side, fighting against Eric Schneiderman, the Attorney General, who's on Hillary's side. So what's the strategy? There's a very clear strategy on the Clinton camp. Let's get Donald Trump off message. Let's get him to talk about the birther issue. Let's get him to talk about his tax returns. Is your father going to stay in the sort of circle of what's most important to the American people on Sunday night?
Yeah, he will. I mean, and the message is America first. And this is really David and Goliath. I'm glad you said it, because people rarely ever say this. I mean, you are fighting Hillary, and you are fighting the liberal media. I mean, the liberal media right now, they're melting down. I mean, they don't know what to do with themselves. I mean, here we are, we're neck and neck in the polls. They've been hitting him and hitting him and hitting him and hitting him. And that means that Americans' people's voices actually matter for the first time in a long time. And that's part of the discontent that you see, you know, when you're on the street. I mean, people no longer feel like their voices matter. And people love his message, which is right to your point, which is America first. We have to start putting America first again. We have to start putting American people first again. We have to put the military and jobs and health care and education. We have to put that first again.
Ever since he started a political campaign, he's been talking about the tax code being unfair. You know, there was a tweet earlier from Jack Brewer, who's a regular guest on the show, a great athlete, and he said, oh, wait a second, so Donald Trump wasn't supposed to write off a $1 billion loss? But they're using this whole tax story, not paying taxes, to their advantage. I think your father handled it as well as he could have handled it, but how do you tell the average guy out there who's, you know, getting just sucked up by paying all these taxes, look, a billionaire, he didn't pay taxes?
Well, you can't take legal, and I think you're right. I mean, the New York Times did this big kill piece, this big story, and they may as well be an extension of the Clinton campaign at this point. It's really, really sad. But then you look back at 2014, and they took $30 million tax deduction in a year that they were profitable.
The New York Times did not pay taxes.
And by the way, you sit there scratching your head. If there's legal tax deductions as a person, you take them. You do that for your business. Any business owner, any small business owner, any individual takes the tax deductions that they're legally allowed to take. At the same time, my father's come out and said, our tax system is ridiculous in this country. It's ridiculous. A, it's too complicated. You know, the only people that are making money are the actual tax lawyers. People can't figure out how to fill out the returns at the end of the year. Why don't we make our tax returns so we can fill them out on a postcard? How about we simplify it greatly so we don't have this craziness? But if you're legally allowed to take a tax deduction, you take a tax deduction.
Of course. And so the strategy on the other side is to just poke holes in everything your father says at all times. I mean, your father has a very clear and succinct message. Lower taxes, roll back regulations. That's going to move the needle on the economy. She doesn't have that much of a cohesive message in that regard. So she's got to attack him on other things.
Well, she's been in government for 35 years. She, you know, I'm a millennial. I'm probably at the tail end of it. She's been a government employee longer than I've been alive. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe. What has she done? She came here into upstate New York. She promised 200,000 new jobs, right, when she was senator. She left the Senate, and guess how many jobs have been created? None. In fact, New York State was 8,000 jobs worse off. So she promised 200,000, and the net effect was negative 8,000. I mean, and now she's going around saying, I'm going to create 10 million new jobs. She's never created a job in her life. She's never signed the front of a check. She's only signed the back, right? I mean, she's been a government employee her entire life. You know, our taxes have funded her entire career, and that's very, very, very sad. You need somebody who's out of the political realm, who's never been a politician, who's been an amazing business success, You need somebody like that to go in and just unwind the system because it's truly horrible and it's running our country into the ground.
Look, there's a big portion of people out there that want to take a risk on Donald Trump. There's no doubt about it, that they feel that they want a shakeup. Give me your sense of the swing states right now. Going into that first debate, Donald Trump was winning in a lot of important swing states. What's the priority in terms of the campaign right now? Is it Pennsylvania? Is it, I mean, Ohio, we know he's winning in Ohio. Do you roll back and not, go double down in Ohio and focus more on Pennsylvania, since that's an important one?
Well, listen, Florida's been amazing. I just spent I spent 4 days in Pennsylvania, all over Pennsylvania. I had Democrats coming up to me. I've been a Democrat my entire life, my entire family, steel workers, coal miners, law enforcement. I mean, the military, just hardworking people. I've been a Democrat my entire life, and I am 100% voting for your father. I mean, I am 100%. I hear it all the time. I haven't voted ever. I'm embarrassed to say I haven't voted ever, and I'm voting for your father. So
wow, that's what you're hearing from people.
All over Pennsylvania. I hear that in Ohio, and I've spent a tremendous amount of time in Ohio. I was just in North Carolina all last week.
So all the swing states are equally important.
I feel really good. The level of enthusiasm is wild. Hey, I show up at an event, and I'll have 500-600 people show up. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I'm not the candidate. I'm a civilian in this whole crazy process.
Real quick.